Hello everyone, welcome to Anu's classroom. So we are continuing with a quick revision. So we had completed till the various markets. I was describing about the various types of markets there is depending upon the level of competition. We had what was it? Yeah, we had perfect competitions. We had monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic competition, and all. So we will talk a little bit more about the four major types of competitive markets in our course. That is the perfect competition, the monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly, and how pricing decisions are undertaken in each of these market segments. Okay, so that is how that is the main topic for this particular video. Along with that, if I get the time, without making this video too long, I will also see if I can do some of the requested topics from you guys. Okay, so coming to the perfect competition market. What is a perfect competition market? Let us quickly recap. It is that market in which there are a large number of buyers as well as sellers. So all these sellers as well as buyers are all engaged in buying and selling of homogeneous product, the same product without any artificial restrictions in place. And also all these people, the consumers as well as the producers or the sellers, both of these people have complete knowledge of how the market is at that particular point in time. Okay, so it is that market structure, you can say, which is characterized by a complete absence of rivalry among the individual firms. So there are a lot of firms, all of them are working in their own way, no competitions at all, there is no rivalry at all. So some of the characteristics of this perfect competition are a very large number of buyers and sellers. So that is the first major, what you can say, characteristic here. Then the next is that there is freedom for the firms to enter and exit whenever they choose to from the market. The products being sold are homogeneous. Homogeneous product. Then there is absence of any artificial restrictions. Then what else? There is a perfect knowledge of market conditions. So these are some of, along with, there are other assumptions also, like the goal is always profit maximization. There will always be perfect mobility of goods. There is no transportation costs are assumed to be nil. There is absence of selling cost. All those things are also there. But at least these many what you can say characteristics you should know. All these characteristics you should know ideally. If a question comes, questions have come about what you mean by perfect competition, or how do you decide the prices in, say, perfect competition, or in perfect competition versus monopoly, or oligopoly versus monopolistic competition, like that, how pricing decisions can be made, what are the characteristics might get asked, or what else, how equilibrium can be maintained, anything like that can be asked from this topic if you guys choose to learn this module. So these are some of the important what you can say points or areas from where questions have been asked in the past. Okay, so I'm hoping that something similar might come up, but I cannot guarantee anything since I am not in any way affiliated to the university. I'm just a private tutor. Okay, so how do we determine the price under this perfect competition? Now, under perfect competition, again, there are many factors which influence the determination of the price of the goods. Okay, but let us mainly look at the equilibrium of the industry and equilibrium of the firm as the most important factors behind price determination under perfect competition. So if you are thinking about equilibrium between the firm and or the industry, equilibrium of the industry and the firm as the major determinants, then how will you determine the prices, what we are going to talk about. So under equilibrium in a perfect competition, the price will be equal to your marginal revenue, which will also be equal to your average revenue. So in a perfect competition, under equilibrium, the marginal revenue, average revenue, and the price, all these three are going to be the same. So if more what you can say units are sold, the marginal revenue will increase, And since the price remains constant, okay, since all selling happens at the same price, what happens? As the number of sales increase, marginal revenue increases, the sales also is increasing proportionately. So your average revenue also again will remain constant. So we can say that if we were to draw the let's say the demand curve for firms under perfect competitive market, then the market demand curve will be something like this. Okay, for a perfect competition. Now what we draw over here is the market supply curve. Okay, market demand curve is what comes down. Okay, so market supply curve, if we have the output in the horizontal axis and price at the vertical axis, we all know as price decreases, output more number of outputs get sold when price decreases. Similarly, as more output gets sold, it means that we need more supply of inputs, so in that case it increases, right? So that is why the marginal supply curve is upward sloping and marginal demand curve is downward sloping. Both of these will intersect at a point. Okay, so that point is where we set the price. Now this is the market demand curve under perfect competition. If that is the case, then individual demand curve is drawn in the same line. Okay, the individual demand curve for firms will be a straight line in this same line. Okay, so this, when you draw this, make sure you're drawing it in the same line side by side, and this is the ratio that you need to follow. Okay, so again here it is the unit of output and here it is the price. So this is how demand curve is for the market. So this is for the market and this is for the individual firm under perfect competition. So when we talk about the price determination under such a condition, okay, under such a competition, we have to talk about three periods: very short period, and long period. How will we set our prices for the very short period, for the short period, and for the long period? These are the three aspects of pricing decision that we have to consider. So let us take the example of our Satvik Sweets company. If you guys are new here, then you might not know Satvik Sweets. So this is a company, a fictional company, which I usually use to give you examples of things. Okay, so Satvik Sweets is a bakery or a sweet manufacturing company, and they let's say they have one of their products is let's say Satvik cakes. Okay, now at a given point of day, they thought that they will make 20 cakes. Okay, they decided to bake 20 cakes. Now this is Satvik Sweets is operating under a perfectly competitive market. Okay, perfect competition. Now 20 cakes they have baked. Suppose say a customer comes in and orders 40 cakes. So after just so they have baked 20 cakes. It's been an hour since it is started sitting on the shelf. They had opened their doors. We are open 10 o'clock in the morning. A customer 1 hour later, a customer comes and places 40 cakes. Now this is an example of price determination under a very short period of time. Okay, but the thing is that cakes cannot be prepared in just an hour or so, right? Even if your customer comes and tells you that he needs 40 pieces of cake, he'll come back in half an hour or in 2 hours. It is not possible to bake a cake in that short amount of time, right? So what will happen? The supply is fixed. You can only give that person 20 cakes. Okay, so the rest 20 he'll have to find it from somewhere else. We can't. If you had given us the order earlier, then okay, but otherwise it is not possible for us to bake additional 20 cakes in that very short amount of time. So at that, in such a point, at such a point or in such a situation, the what you can say, what is the price of the cakes is what is known as market price, or what strategy you would choose to determine the price in such a point is what is known as price determination at very short period. But at the same time, if the person is coming and telling us, I need 40 cakes for tomorrow, then you can, right? So that becomes price determination under a short period. At that time, so even though right now our supply is fixed, we can set it up, right, for the next day. It is possible, but then what price will we charge for that? That is the subnominal price. It is, so that kind of a price is called as subnominal price. So even though our supply was fixed, we can set the price a little bit differently. So that is subnominal price. Then coming to, let's say, long period price setting, it is long period price setting actually comes in when there is a drastic change in the size of population, or somehow after Premam, I think that it's a very famous movie, maybe you guys have heard it. The demand for red velvet cakes actually shot up, right? So a change in customers' tastes and preferences were there. So such changes which bring about a change or a shift in demand is no, and for that, how would you, what you can say, how would you respond to that is what is known as price setting in the long periods of time. So coming to the equilibrium, right? We all know what is equilibrium when it is at a what you can say, everything is balanced out, right? So when you take this market demand curve, the balancing out of demand and supply happens at this particular point, right? This is the equilibrium point, and the price at this particular equilibrium point is what becomes your firm's selling price also. Under perfect competition, the firms are, or the sellers are, just price takers. They cannot set the price, right? So a firm under this condition is set to maximize its profits. So the output that offers the maximum profit to the firm is its equilibrium output. Now when there is equilibrium in the firm, there is actually no reason for the firm to increase or decrease the output. Why should we do that? We are selling everything, we are using our supply at the best. Anything more, we are not going to, what you can say, we might end up making loss at the cost side, right? Or anything less, we might end up losing potential customers. So under equilibrium, when the firm is at equilibrium, actually there is no particular reason why the firm should go for increasing or decreasing its output. So firms actually cannot influence the price on their individual capacities. Why? Because all the firms in the perfect competition will be working at their own equilibrium points. So the firms become the price takers, and therefore they'll have to determine the price, or they'll have to stick with the price that is determined by the industry. If you decide to increase your price, you will be the losers. Why? Because it follows the law of demand, and your product's demand is going to come down because people will get things at a cheaper rate. And if you decide to, let's say, make your product priced less, then also it is not going to affect anything much, because you will be suffering losses because you are already at the equilibrium point or that break even point. You will be suffering losses, whereas other companies would be making profit still. So you will be you will be the loser at that point of time also. So you will have to stick with whatever is the market price. Okay, so in order to attain this equilibrium position under perfect competition, what a firm should do? The firm should ensure that their marginal revenue, okay, their MR, is equal to their marginal cost. That is one condition. If marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, then firm can expand its production and sell additional units. If it is less, then they'll have to reduce the output, since additional units will add more cost than revenue. So the maximum profit it will get only when MR is equal to MC. Your marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost. So that is one requirement for a firm to reach this equilibrium point at the time of perfect competition. Similarly, the MC, or the marginal cost curve, okay, that should have a positive slope, and your marginal revenue curve should have a slope downwards, and it should cut it also. There should be a point of intersection also. That point of intersection is what is the equilibrium point, right? So that is in short about the equilibrium under perfect competition. Now, monopolistic competition and oligopoly are all kind of imperfect competitions only. Monopolistic competition has both the what you can say, features of monopoly and perfect competition. That is the only difference there. Okay, so now let us look at the next type of market, that is the monopolistic market. So as per the name, it is just the firm, right? There's only one firm which is selling that particular product. So that is why it is called a monopoly. So there is no distinction in such cases between what the firm is and what the industry is. The industry is the firm itself. So in such a case, what are the characteristics? there is only one seller for the product. So there is barrier of entry of others, right? Nobody else is allowed to enter into the market. That is why there is only one seller for that product. The product will not have any close substitutes. So the cross elasticity of demand with every other product will be very low. That means no other firm can produce a similar product. That is the reason why it is monopoly in the first place, right? It's only one seller who's producing it. So the demand curve for this product of this monopolistic seller will be relatively stable, and it will slope downward to the right. Okay, slope downward to the right, as in like this itself. Law of demand. Okay. Then what? So, again, it follows the law of demand. More products can be sold at lower prices than higher price. And under this thing, what is different here from perfect competition is that this firm or this seller is the price setter. Since nobody else in the market is doing it, if people want it, he has to set the price. But that doesn't mean that he can set, or he or she can set the price according to his own wishes. Now you are selling a unique packaging material. It is not that you're going to set it up for 1,000 rupees for one small packet, right? If you set it like that, you're going to suffer loss because nobody is going to buy it from you. Correct. So it is not that he can set the price, but again he has to set it. He has his own limitations or constraints. So there are two things, right? There is price and there is output. Either he can choose to set the price, then in that case, according to the price, the output will suffer or gain, or he can choose the output, set the output, and according to the output, he'll have to set the price. Like for example, if, like say I am preparing what? Okay. In this particular area where Sattvic Sweets is selling, they decided to introduce a sweet called Badusha. Anyone aware of the sweet? Okay. So there are no sellers in the market, where in that particular market, who is selling this Badusha. Okay. So now Sattvic Sweets is at advantage here. They can decide the price. Now say they decided to price one Badusha for say rupees 100. Now what will happen? This is a new product and it is priced at a premium price. What will happen? Let's say he had, or Sattvic Sweets had made 20 pieces of Badusha. Okay, since it is priced at 100 rupees now. Depending upon the market prevalent there, the income and other things, taste and preference and stuff like that of the customers on that particular market, they may or may not be willing to give this 100 rupees per piece for this Badusha. So what will happen? He can no longer control his output. Correct? That is the sales. Now let's say he's focusing on trying to sell off this 20 pieces, and not because he doesn't want it to carry forward to the next day. In that case, he'll have to set the price such that the people will buy, and this product 20 pieces will sell out. So at that time what happens? He can set the output but not the price. The price will fluctuate. The price he'll have to set so that the output is all gone. Correct? So that is what I meant when I said that the monopolistic firm or the monopolistic seller cannot set both the price and output at the same time. So whatever it is, whatever the seller decides to set the price or the output, the aim of that seller is just this: maximize profits. So coming to the topic, main topic here, how we determine the price. Here also there is short run and long run and all. But unlike in perfect competition, where price was determined by the interaction of this total demand and supply curves, over here under monopoly, to sell every additional unit of this commodity, the price has to be lower. Okay, if you set the price very high, not all units of your product is going to be sold. If you want to sell your products out and thereby maximize the profit, you will have to bring your price lower. So in this way, with every additional unit sold, the average as well as the marginal revenue, okay, the AR and MR, with every additional unit sold, the average and marginal income will go on falling. But this decrease in the average revenue will be relatively less sharp than the decrease in marginal revenue. Why? Because the marginal revenue is limited to one unit, whereas in the case of average unit revenue, the decrease in price will be divided by the total number of units. Okay, so the demand supply curve will be something like this. Okay, this will be for the average revenue curve and this will be the marginal revenue with output here and price here. Okay, so that is monopoly. Now coming to the next one, that is monopolistic competition. So this is like a mix of monopoly and perfect competition. Therefore, the name monopolistic competition. Okay. So over here, it is not that there is only one seller. There are different sellers. There are multiple sellers, but they all sell a differentiated product. Okay. So there is competition, but it is not a perfect competition. So there will be some sort of like rivalry between the firms as well. So why? Because they'll be making products which are not exact perfect substitutes, but close, like the Android smartphone market. Motorola is there, Realme is there, Redmi is there, MI is there, what else? Nokia is there, Samsung is there, OnePlus is there. All of them produce the same Android smartphone, but are they same? Can you substitute anything for the other? Actually, no. Each is a little bit differentiated product, right? So, smartphones is a good example, I believe, of such a monopolistic competition. Whereas we have Apple, which is a monopoly, unless so there is no other Apple, right? There is no other Mac phones. That's only Apple there, so it's a monopoly. Whereas Android market is a monopolistic competition. So it exhibits the characteristics of both the perfect competition as well as monopoly. So there are large number of sellers here, but the products are differentiated. Again, like perfect competition, firms are free to enter or exit at any point of time. And the competition here is mostly non-price. Like for example, everybody will have their own flagship phones, which is different. The budget phones, most all these companies, smartphone companies, which I told, have mid-range phones, right? Like 10K or 15K, 20K, that range of phones are there. If you look at them, almost all of them have similar specs, similar kind of what you can say, specs and specifications and everything, but still they are differentiated in one way or the other, right? So that is what the competition is, not exactly on the price, but rather on the features or the differentiation of the products. And there are selling costs. The buyers as well as the sellers do not have a very good overall comprehensive or perfect knowledge of the market, unlike in the perfect competition. The demand is more elastic here under monopolistic competition, and we have less mobility because uh, because of this elasticity itself. Okay, so under such a competition, how will we determine the price? The firm will be in equilibrium position here because it has characteristics of perfect competition. The firm, in order to be what you can say in equilibrium, marginal revenue should be equal to the marginal cost. So as long as the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, the seller will find it profitable to produce more and more output. Now, if the marginal revenue becomes less than the marginal cost, then the seller will have to reduce his output so that it will become equal. Okay, so in the short run, firm will be in equilibrium, at the same time maximize its profit when MR is equal to MC. So that is the pricing strategy over here. But in the long run, so that was in the short run. In the long run, for monopolistic competition, um, even if the firm increases its product and all to get more revenue out of it, the problem in the long run is that since it is not a fixed market, entry is not prohibited here, more and more firms will come up. Okay, so what will happen? The demand curve or the average revenue curve for the market will start shifting to the left. So what will happen? The profits will start dying out. Okay, and the abnormal profits, in case if any firm was earning, will start dying out, and the profits will come down back to normal, to the equilibrium state. So in the short run, if the firms are suffering from long run, sorry, in the short run, if firms are suffering from losses, then such firms will have to leave the industry in the long run. Okay, and as such firms leave the industry, the remaining firms over there will start having a little bit increase in their profits and will come closer to the normal profits. So that is how price gets determined under monopolistic competition. I hope you got an idea on that. Coming to the last one, that is oligopoly. So with this, we will wind this video up. I will do another video for the requested topics. Okay, so oligopoly again over here is more number of sellers than a monopoly. Okay, but not as many as in perfect competition. So there are few sellers who are selling homogeneous or maybe even differentiated products will be there. So it is not a pure monopoly or a monopolistic competition. So it is somewhere in between. Okay, so perfect competition, monopoly, in between we have monopolistic competition. Between this monopoly and monopolistic competition, we have oligopoly. Okay, so this is how the markets are structured. So the oligopoly market structure, it lies between this pure monopoly and monopolistic competition. Why? Because few sellers will be dominating the market and will have control over the price of the product. So under oligopoly market, the firm may either produce homogeneous product or heterogeneous product. Some of the features of this oligopolistic market which I can talk about is that it is characterized by few sellers. There is a lack of uniformity. Why? Because the firms may be selling homogeneous products or even differentiated products. The firms are all interdependent. There are entry and exit barriers, and there will be competition and rivalry between the firms. Advertisements will, what you can say, have a good impact on the selling. So when you think about that, in some cases, flagship areas and all, it is kind of like an oligopoly. So one thing that again, when I'm saying these examples, right, a firm, since it has many products, different product lines can be operating in different markets. So that is why, the same company examples can be, modified a little bit and stated to satisfy other principles as well, furnished as examples for other things as well. Why? Because it is all composite. It is not, there is no exact linear demarcation like the map of Africa. Have you seen the map of Africa? Countries are divided in straight lines. It's not like that. It's more of like the map of Asia or any other continent. Okay. And the concepts in economics and business, there is no clear demarcation that this is this and this is not anything else, right? You look at the same firm from different angles, you will see it conforming to different principles, different aspects. Similarly, from the timeline perspective also, you check, it undergoes drastic changes. There, it is always a changing environment, changing cases. The same firm might fit into multiple shoes, right? So that is the reason why everything has this time frame constraint over it. So I hope you get the idea there. So those were the features of oligopolistic market. Now coming to again, there are different types of oligopolistic markets, even like open and closed ended, partial and full, perfect, imperfect, syndicated, organized, and such things also. So there are different types of oligopolies again in there. Okay, and for oligopolies, unlike the other types of markets we were discussing so far, the demand curve is kind of having a kink. Okay, so the oligopolistic markets have a kinked demand curve. So why there is a kink is because the prices tend to remain inflexible for a very long time, but after a point, it will change. Okay, so what you can say, so this is, if you consider this kink, so this kink is the prevalent price, you can say. So this kink, if you talk about it, this is the prevalent price. Okay, now above this kink, the price is highly elastic, whereas below this kink, it is inelastic. So oligopolistic market demand curve is like this. Okay, so if P is the, this is the prevalent price, above this price, it is a very highly elastic market. Any small change or fluctuation in the price could have a drastic impact on your output, whereas below this, it is kind of inelastic. Even if you reduce the price very low, your output is not going to affect much, only it is going to eat away from your profits. So you have to consider this in mind while setting up your prices. If your price is already running at the prevalent price, then it will not be a wise decision to reduce your price further, because it is not going to show any impact on the outputs. But if your price is very farther away, very much farther away from the prevalent price, then you could try lowering your price so that you can tap into the elasticity of this particular market. So that is how pricing decisions are taken in the oligopolistic market. So I hope you got an overall idea. I haven't covered the entire unit as this is just a quick revision, just an overview. So I hope you found these sessions, these three parts, useful. Now I did get a few requests for topics. So whichever I haven't covered so far, I will be doing another video where we will be covering those demanded topics a little bit more in depth. Okay, so I'll see you in that video. Until then, bye bye, take care, study well, study wisely. Yeah, so before winding up, let me tell you, I from the past question papers, whatever I have noticed, okay, this is the pattern I have noticed for after checking the previous year's question papers around the past 10 ones. What I found is that two questions get asked from every module. Sorry, yeah, module as in block. Okay, now a block could have either four or some, mostly three, sometimes two or even four, some units in them. Since two questions will come from each block as per the previous patterns, I hope that is how it is going to happen in the this upcoming one also. Two questions might get asked. So if there are three units, do not skip any of those units. Okay, so since you only have to attempt five out of the seven ones, if you can study two units perfectly pakka without leaving anything, okay, choose two easy modules for easy blocks for you and get learn everything in that block, you will be able to answer at least four questions. That is for sure. You only have to answer five. Now the third block, if you can study, you know, that will be well and fine, then you will be able to answer all five. If not, at least two, minimum, bare minimum two, but in that don't be stingy. Okay, you're only studying two out of four blocks, don't be stingy in that. Study the whole all the units perfectly, you will be able to answer four questions for sure. That is the pattern it has been so far, and that is the pattern I'm expecting it to happen in the coming exam also. Again, that being said, I'm not anyway related to setting up the question paper or its evaluations. Okay, I'm private tutor. I'm just sharing with you my observations. So that in the hope that it will be of help to you. Okay. So yeah, so that is it. All the very best to you, and I'll see you in the next video.